Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is Open Mic. Well, what's Open Mic? We see every day on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday. We take some time to take live questions. But here on the weekends, that's all we do. We just take live, open questions from you guys, talking about all the stuff that you guys want to talk about, particularly when it comes to movies and television and all that sorts of good stuff. I'll tell you what, guys, I'm still kind of reeling in the aftermath, the glow, if you will, of the Toronto Raptors winning the NBA title. A Canadian team, a Toronto team, has now won the World Series, a couple of World Series. They've now won an NBA title. All that's really left now is a Super Bowl. Canadians, somebody said this to me the other day, and they're right. Canadian teams are 0-53 in the Super Bowl because there is no Canadian team. You watch, Toronto's going to get a team one of these days. Toronto's going to get a team, and they're going to win the Super Bowl at some point. But anyway, I'm still kind of basking in the glory of all that and having a good time with that. But listen, guys, we got a bunch of stuff we're going to talk about here today. You guys have been firing in tons of stuff. So let's kick on back, relax, enjoy some good movie chatting amongst each other, our fellow film fans, and let's get things rolling. All right, we're going to get things started here today with Logan James Kynaston, who writes, how high do you think the chance is that one day we'll see Tom Hardy ever get his first Oscar nomination or even a win? Maybe his upcoming Al Capone biopic? Oh, I think there's a pretty good chance. Look, he's still got, 30 years of acting in him? He's still got like 30 years of acting in him. He's going to have a lot, and he's already shown himself to be, he's an elite level actor. Is he in the top 5 actors in the world today? No, probably not top 5, probably not that, but he's an elite level actor. He's a fabulous performer. And I don't know if he's going to, by the way, I'm looking forward to this new biopic he's doing. I believe, what's it called? Gonzo or something like that. Anyway, it's being directed by Josh Trank, who directed Chronicle. And then infamously that Fantastic Four movie, but that was a whole cluster F right from the beginning between the studio and him. So let's put that aside for a second. But I'm fascinated by this movie, this Al Capone with Tom Hardy, Josh Trank directing it. I'm fascinated by it. But yeah, let's put it this way. If I could pick up a crystal ball and look 15 years into the future right now, I would be surprised to look into that future and find out that Tom Hardy doesn't at least have a nomination by that point. I would be shocked if we looked 15 years in the future and he doesn't have one. So I gotta say, Logan, I mean, look, getting an Academy Award is the hardest thing in the world to do. Because there's like 5, 6, 7, 800 films a year that come out that qualify for the Oscars. So if you're a lead actor, that means you got 5, 6, 7, 800 other people you're in competition with. 5, 6, 7, 800 other people you're in competition with to get one of just 5 nominations. That's daunting. And then to win is ridiculous, because to win, not only do you have to give the best performance of your life, you got to hope that somebody else didn't give the best performance of their life that just happened to be a little bit better than yours that year. It's daunting. But I do believe that if I looked in that crystal ball, we would see him with at least a nomination or 2. So yeah, I'm going to say the chances, Logan, are pretty high because the dude is just too good. He's just too good. All right. King of the Hills 34 writes, about to go watch Endgame for a second time, wanted to wait from opening night, so it's kind of a fresh experience again. That's good. I mean, most people who are interested in Endgame probably saw it 5 times in the first 72 hours. I mean, when you look at the opening weekend numbers and stuff like that, I saw it 4 times by the end of its opening weekend. I saw it once at the premiere, once at a press screening, and then I went twice on opening weekend. And I kept saying I'm going to go at least a 5th, but I never did, because the movie's freaking 3 hours long. And as much as I love the movie, it is 3 hours long. And I think I can wait a little bit till it comes out on Disney Plus or comes out on home video for me to buy or whatever. But yeah, if you're someone like you haven't seen it yet, that's actually not a bad strategy, King of the Hills. Give yourself a little bit of time, go in with a new, fresh experience again. I think that's actually a pretty good strategy if you're not completely jonesing to run out and watch it immediately again. Then I think that's a pretty good strategy. Good on you. All right, Lone Wolf X6 writes, hey, John, finished Jessica Jones Season 3. Won't give spoilers away, but all I want to say is that, man, I wish they didn't cancel the show because the ending. Well, I haven't seen it. I'll be honest with you. I said last week that at some point I will watch Jessica Jones season 3, but I don't know if that's true. Look, it's Marvel stuff, so I want to like it, but fact of the matter is I didn't like Jessica Jones season 1, even though it had a fantastic villain. And even though there are redeeming qualities about the show, and there are good things about the show, I was, in the minority amongst my peers. I didn't like Jessica Jones season 1. So I give Jessica Jones season 2 a chance, and it started off promising, but then kind of fell into the same weaknesses I felt of season 1, and therefore I didn't actually end up liking season 2 all that much. I didn't think it was garbage. I just didn't like it that much. I just didn't think it was all that good. And then it came up the other day about Jessica Jones season 3, and I thought I would check it out, but the more I think about it, it's like, you know what? I've got so much TV because I don't watch a lot of TV. I just don't have the time. I'm behind on a lot of great TV. And I just finally caught up with Barry season 2. I did plow through Chernobyl because that was must-watch TV. But considering there's so much stuff that people are trying to get me to watch this and that and some good looking stuff, do I really want to take the time to watch the 3rd season of a show that I didn't like the first 2 seasons? And I'm not crap talking on the show, and I'm not crap talking season 3 because I don't know, I haven't seen it. But do I want to invest 10 hours of my life watching a show when I didn't like the first 2 seasons and I know it's not coming back for a 4th season? I'm probably going to take a pass on it. But listen, I'm glad you liked it. If you're somebody who's into Jessica Jones, all you can hope for is that this final season will be a good one, and it sounds like you enjoyed it, Lone Wolf, so that's the important thing. All right, we move on now to Draco Arias, who writes, it is time. The 25th anniversary of The Lion... Really? That's today? The 25th anniversary of The Lion King is today. The best animated film of all time. Nala is my favorite character. Hans Zimmer's score is amazing. What is your favorite part of the movie? Woo! Yeah, Lion King, I've said this before. Lion King is my all-time favorite animated film. It's my number one all-time. There are many, many great ones. Many incredible, incredible animated films. But Lion King is my all-time favorite. And it's going to be very, very difficult for anything to take its place. Anyway, my favorite part of Lion King. Man, that's tough. The Be Prepared number is one of my favorites with Scar. Obviously, I love Hakuna Matata. The part where Rafiki in the breeze realizes that Simba's still alive, that always gave me chills. When Rafiki realizes Simba's still alive, that gives me chills to this day. Probably has something to do with Mufasa, though. Might be when he shows up to save Simba in that opening from the hyenas. That might be my... I don't know, man. Look, you could name every single scene in The Lion King, and there's an argument to be made that might be my favorite scene. I just love The Lion King so much. Cannot wait for the new version. Notice I'm not calling it the live action version because there's nothing live action about this new movie. This new movie is an animated movie. It just looks real, but it is an animated movie. I am very excited about this new one and keeping my fingers crossed, man. 25 years. Unbelievable. All right. Jay Meister writes, but John, I told you, there are 2 apples in the bag. Okay, so what that's going back to is, it goes back to the whole, Snyder Cut controversy. And basically comes down to semantics. And I know some of you must be getting bored to death of hearing me talk about this, so I'll just keep this real short for those of you who did not catch it. So, I've been saying for a while, I do not believe, like people say, release the Snyder Cut, and I've been saying, I don't think Warner Brothers has a ready-to-be-released, totally completed, color-corrected, sound design and sound edited, musically scored, visual effects completed, completely 100% done, finished product of Snyder's edit that's just ready to be released. There's nothing to release. And I said, well, no, I believe that Zack Snyder shot all the footage for his vision of the film. And I believe that as a director, he cut together and edited that footage into what would be his completed thing, just without all the other work that needs to be done on it. But I believe Zack Snyder's even said, sure, I've got a cut. I got several cuts. I believe he's got all of his footage shot and he edited together a bunch of different versions of his vision of the film. I believe that exists. What I do not believe exists is that I don't believe the studio took that edit, did all the finishing work on it, did all the post-production, did all the visual effects, did all the sound, did all the color correction, did all the ADR, did all the Foley, did all the voiceover. I just don't believe that exists. And there's been nothing out there that suggests that it does. There's been no shred of evidence. The only thing that we know, or at least we think we know, at least I believe exists, is that Snyder took the footage he shot and he edited together a cut of the film that is his vision of the film, but that's only half of it. The other half is all the work that needs to be done afterwards, and I don't believe that Warner Brothers spent the money on that. So where the two apples comes from is that I keep getting people, well-intentioned, granted, I keep getting these well-intentioned people going, but John, he did shoot and edited together his stuff. Don't you know that? And I'm like, yeah, I know. I said that. I agree. Why are you yelling at me? I agree with you. I'm just saying all this other stuff doesn't exist. And there's nothing to suggest that any of the other stuff does. Maybe it does. I'd love to know if it does. But so far, there's been no evidence to that. None at all. None at all. He shot it. He edited it. He has several edits of it. I believe that. So why are you yelling? I believe you. I believe you. But John, he does have an edit of it. I know. I believe you. I'm just saying there's that. And the illustration I gave was, it's like I told you there are two apples in the bag, but there's no watermelon in the bag. And then you yell at me, John, you're an idiot. Don't you know there are two apples in the bag? Yeah. Yeah, I said, did I speak French? I'm sorry. I know I'm Canadian. Maybe I get a little bilingual here. Did I speak French? There are two apples in the bag. I agree. There are two apples in the bag. I'm just saying there's not a watermelon in there. Well, John, you don't know what you're talking about because there's obviously two apples in the bag. Am I taking crazy pills? Did I not say that I agree with you? I believe there are two apples in the bag. I'm just saying there's no evidence that there's a watermelon in the bag. Hey, everybody, Campea thinks there's not two apples in the bag. Oh, for F's sakes. Yes, I do agree that anyway, that's where that all came from. Anyway, Madsif Jada writes, just started Barry season 2. Does it get better? Oh my God, it gets great. Here's the thing. I was late to Barry season 2 because I watched Barry season 1 and I loved it. And then everybody's telling me, God, John, Barry season 2 so good. Barry season 2 so good, so good. I'm like, okay, great. I'm excited. Including Cody Miller. He texted me, God, John, text me when you start watching Barry season 2. This is like one of the best things ever. And I'm like, okay. So I start watching Barry season 2. And I'll be honest with you. The first episode or two, it's like, okay, it's not bad. It's pretty good, but it's not nearly as good as Barry season 1. And I almost ditched on it. Then I watched episode 3, and again, it was a pretty decent episode, but I thought a bit of a step down from season 1, and I wasn't even sure I was going to finish out the season. And then I had a few people tell me, John, just keep going. They said, just keep going. And oh my God, I'm glad I did, because it takes off into what might be in the discussion for one of the 5 funniest episodes of television in television history. Barry season 2, episode 5. I thought I might have to call an ambulance because I didn't know if I was going to be able to breathe. Because you know when you're laughing, you're exhaling, and if you laugh so hard, you have a hard time stopping the laughing so you can inhale. I thought I was going to pass out on several occasions watching Barry season 2, episode 5. I thought I was just going to straight up pass out. And it really starts to pick up in episode 4, steamrolls into episode 5, and then it just goes from there. And it's great. And it's great. But I'm not going to give away anything. But if you've watched Barry, you know what I'm talking about when I say Barry season 2, episode 5. I can't remember the last time. Can't remember the last time that an episode of television just put me in physical pain that I was laughing so hard. Like abdominal discomfort from laughing so hard. It was kind of nutty. Anyway, all right. Abraham Asif writes, Warner Brothers should release a Justice League movie where they add one additional frame to the movie and call and call it the Snyder Cut. Yeah, it would make here's the thing. There are people out there who are saying if such a Snyder Cut does exist, and God, I would love to know if it does. I don't believe it does, but I'd love to know if it does. If such a thing existed that was actually ready to put in theaters, and they put it out, people think, oh, it would make over $700 million. It would make $5 million. Maybe 4, maybe 3. But hey, it is what it is. But you're right. That would be some marketing genius. That would be some free money right there, Abraham. You're not wrong about that, buddy. You're not wrong. All right. Dirk Diggler writes, John, I saw Justice League 2 last night, and it was amazing. The Snyder Cut did an awesome job and blew Endgame out of the water. Justice League 2 is set to beat Endgame's record. I can't wait for your review. Obviously, Dirk is being facetious. But you know what's the craziest thing is there are some people out there who claim a Justice League 2 exists. Not many. It's like just a few freaks that are insisting that when they shot Justice League, they actually shot Justice League 2 back to back. It's a tiny number. Like, pay no attention to it. It's nothing really. But it's kind of funny. So just hearing you say that, Dirk, is pretty funny. Can't wait to review it. All right. JB Bonifacio writes, I've grown to love that intermission song. Hey, hey. Yeah, that's our movie news feed music. That music that we play. I don't know if it's a great piece of music, but it does the job. I'm glad you enjoy it, JB. All right, Abraham Asif writes, also, can't believe Up is 10 years old. Is it really? Oh, a second. Let me look this up. Did Up really come out 10 years? 2009. You're right. I guess its 10th anniversary was like a week and a half ago. 2 weeks ago. May 29th, 2009. Up debuted. Oh my God. That is nuts. Talk about, look, this is the movie that kind of made me go, I've got to stop doubting Pixar. Because I saw the trailers for Up, and Pixar was already amazing. But I saw the trailers for Up. I remember thinking, all right, this looks kind of dumb. Honestly, I thought this looks kind of dumb, blah, blah. And I watched it, and was there, for any of you that saw Up in the movie theater, did any of you see a single dry eye in the theater, especially during that first part of the movie? Did any of you see a single dry eye anywhere in the theater? Because I know I didn't. And that was the movie that made me go, I got to stop doubting Pixar. I should never doubt Pixar. And so even when Coco was coming out, I looked at Coco and I thought, well, it's cool that they're doing multicultural stuff, and I think that's great, but this looks pretty thin. This doesn't look very good, Coco. Then I went to go see Coco. And once again, I had to remind myself, dude, never doubt Pixar, because Coco is so effing good. But I cannot believe Up is 10 years old. That's crazy. All right. Imad Abdelatif writes, John is too humble to say it, but y'all should go check out his Patreon page. Hell, I ain't too humble to say it. Guys, if you're not a Patreon supporter, become a Patreon supporter of our YouTube channel. You get audio-only versions of the podcasts. Like when we do the show, a lot of people ask, John, why can't I find a podcast version of the show? There is a podcast version of the show. It's available to our Patreon supporters. Alone, we have a great Facebook group with a terrific community of active people in there. I love going in there. I have, like, my news feed is just filled up with the things people are putting in our exclusive Facebook group. We do an exclusive thing only for our Patreon supporters. I'm a day and a half late on the newest episode, but it's called Best of the Week, where it's just me talking to our Patreon supporters, and we take all questions just from our Patreon supporters, and just, it's a way to support the show, and it's great. It's the part of the reason why we're able to pay people like Fact Checker Jonathan and Ray and Robert Meyer Burnett, and when Ashley was here, Ashley, and all that kind of stuff. So I ain't too humble to say it, Emad, so thank you for bringing it up. If you love the channel and you like checking out the stuff, consider becoming a Patreon supporter. That would be awesome if you did. Nope. And if you don't, no problem. I'm just grateful you're here being film fans with us. I'm totally grateful just for that. But if you want to become a Patreon supporter, check out the description below. You'll find a link to it. Thanks for giving me an excuse to give it a plug, man. I appreciate that. All right. Brandon Plummer writes, what would you like to see get the MCU treatment? I really don't care. I would love to see Netflix do League of Extraordinary Gentlemen in a similar fashion. Love that show. Love the show. Well, thank you so much, Brandon. My company, it wasn't my company, the company I worked with, which was called Satellite Studios at the time. We were a CGI, visual effects, and animation house. And our company did a little bit of work on League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Didn't work out so well. But the shots our company did were the shots of the Invisible Man on fire. Those were the shots our company did. So I've got a special place in my heart for League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It was Avengers before the Avengers. Unfortunately, it wasn't a very good movie. But hey, it is what it is. As far as what character do I want to see next, I really don't care. I just trust, I've just come to trust Kevin Feige and his team at the MCU. If whatever character they want to give us next, I'm down for. You want to give us a Black Widow movie? Okay, I never wanted to see a Black Widow movie, but if you think you can give us a great Black Widow movie, bring it. You want to do Shang-Chi? Great, bring Shang-Chi. You want to do Eternals? Okay, I wouldn't have thought of that, but all right, bring it on. I mean, I'm just to that point now with Marvel where it's like, hey man, whatever. Now, one character I have always said I would love to see get real justice on the big screen. They have put him on the big screen before, but always in just tiny little bites. And that is the character of Bishop. I love Bishop. Always have. I love that character. And he has a terrific role to play in my all-time favorite comic book story, which is, of course, X-Men Age of Apocalypse. I've always loved Bishop. I've always wanted Bishop to get more than just a quick cameo appearance in an X-Men movie and stuff like that. And now that Marvel has him, I would love to see if it's someday they gave Bishop a movie. I would like that. Other than that, I'm good with whatever they want to do, and I don't really have a checklist of different characters that I want to see. Whatever they want to give us, I'm totally good with. All right, Ryan Lona writes, I so dearly wish Jim Henson could see this Dark Crystal show. His one-time mixed review flop is now a classic loved enough to be brought back. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the show's any good. I mean, you know me, I'm dying to see this new Dark Crystal show. I cannot wait. I mean, I got the giblies in my jellies. You know, I'm completely stoked for it. But let's be honest, right now, I don't know if it's any good. I'm hoping it's good, but I don't know. But it would be great if Jim Henson could know that you're right. This once kind of panned, not very successful, amazing thing he did in the Dark Crystal today is looked at so fondly as a classic and is getting a relaunch with this Netflix series. It would be great if he could have known that. I cannot wait for this show. All right. Tony Hurd sends in a really generous super chat. Thank you for that, Tony. Thanks for supporting the channel on that level. And he writes, I rewatched Justice League and Aquaman and noticed two things. In Justice League, Arthur says his mom abandoned him and Mara said it was to protect him. But in Aquaman, he learned about his mom at a young age. Then Tony goes on to write, two of two. And when the scientist said his Atlantis theory, he was made fun of, but wasn't the Earth invaded by aliens twice? Not giant continuity errors, but I thought they were kind of funny. I see, those are the things, it's those types of things, Tony, that I kind of qualify. I call them Ben Kenobi. Ben Kenobi loopholes, if you will, or Ben Kenobi plot holes, if you will, in that it all depends on how you look at them, right? Because really is what is said in Justice League, depending on your point of view and how you decide to interpret it, is it really all that far off? Is it really all that far off from then what they state in Aquaman? You see, what they told us was true from a certain point of view. I mean, so it's kind of like that. Also, with the scientist part, I'm not going to lie to you, Tony. When I heard him say that, what went through my head for the first time is, wasn't the world just invaded by aliens? And didn't we just have like this man from outer space called the Superman? And then this creature of unlimited destruction named Doomsday, and this woman with a golden lasso that can make you tell the truth. Didn't all that just happen? Come on. But then I thought about it afterwards. And I thought, you know, I guess in our world, just because one fantastical thing happens doesn't mean you would just automatically buy into and agree any fantastical thing, right? I mean, I guess. Like, just because if aliens showed up tomorrow, true, seriously, think about this. If alien beings, if an alien spaceship came down, landed in Washington on the steps of the White House, and an alien came out and said, I'm from a very distant world, and I'm just looking for a place for refuge. I come in peace, blah, blah, blah. If that happened, would you now believe in Santa Claus. No, I mean, it sounds silly, but think about that for a second, right? If something fantastical happened, like an alien spaceship descends from the sky, lands in Washington, okay. Would that make you sit in your room and go, I need to rethink my whole position on Santa Claus? No, you wouldn't. That would still be something you would not believe. You probably still wouldn't believe in the Tooth Fairy. You probably still wouldn't believe in leprechauns. And you probably still wouldn't believe in the lost city of Atlantis, right? So I was completely with you, Tony, when I was in the theaters, like, they thought my theory was insane. And I remember thinking, wouldn't they think maybe you weren't all that insane in light of all the events that have happened in the world? But then I thought about it and thought, well, yeah, look, if my best friend came to me tomorrow and said, okay, I need to show you something, but don't freak out, and he shape-shifted into other animals, that's a fantastical thing. Would that suddenly make me believe in Santa Claus? Probably not. Probably not. So I will say that I can totally see why you saw some loopholes there, or at least a little bit of some minor plot holes there, but I would shuffle those ones under the category of Ben Kenobi plot holes, because what we were told was true from a certain point of view, depending on how you choose to look at it. So those ones don't sit badly with me, to be honest. They don't sit too badly with me. At first, maybe it did for a first second or two, but upon further reflection, I'm kind of okay with it. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys see, like, maybe what Tony's bringing up is something that strikes a chord with you? Do you think those were major plot holes? Do you think those are things that maybe should distract you from the other things in the movie? Or maybe not? Do you see them more like Ben Kenobi things like me? Or do you see there being no logic problem with them whatsoever? Jump down in the comment section and let me know what you guys think. All right. Thanks for that, Tony. Appreciate it. Good, fun discussion. All right. Jersey Kid writes, just saw Serenity with McConaughey and gotta say, meh. Oh, yeah. I mean, I love the story they were going for, but the twist kind of killed that, especially, have you seen it? Yeah, I did. And I will confess that the twist got spoiled for me prior to seeing it. And I was like, what the F are you talking about? When they told me what the twist was. I'm like, no way. Really? That's the twist. And then I thought, okay, when I finally sit down to watch the movie, and I see it in context, maybe it'll make more sense. And honestly, to me, it did not make more sense. I think from my point of view, Jersey, and all films subjective, but I think by saying the movie was meh, I think you might be being a little bit generous from my point of view at any rate. Yeah, I didn't like the film. I love Matthew McConaughey. And again, he does about as good of a job in a movie like that you can do. And I appreciate him a great deal. But yeah, let's put it this way. I didn't like the movie all that much before the twist. And then the twist didn't do it any favors. The twist didn't do it any favors. You know what I'm talking about. All right. Anyway, let's see here. Noel Nguyen writes, petition for John to rate all not terrible, not great movies as 3.6 Rotingen. Rotingen? I don't know what Rotingen is. Yeah, I don't give numerical scores to movies anymore. I just found there... Here's why I stopped a long time ago. Well, maybe it wasn't all that long ago, but at least a couple years ago, I stopped giving numerical scores to movies. And the reason, there are several reasons actually, but the main reason I stopped giving numerical scores to movies is because we live in a frickin' ridiculous 10, 10, 10 or 0, 0, 0 generation right now. Everything's either the best thing ever, it's a 10, it's a 10, it's a 10, or everything's either the worst thing ever, it's a 0, it's a 0, it's a 0. You know, God forbid, if you gave a numerical score to Avengers Endgame and said 9.5, you're going to get, chased out of town. How dare you not say it's a 10? How dare you disrespect Endgame? It's like everything is a 10, 10, 10 or is a 0, 0, 0. And that's frustrating to me as a film fan. The other thing, though, is that everybody has, and some of you may have heard me talk about this. It's been a little while since I've talked about it, but everybody has a different idea about what certain numerical scores mean. Like for me, a 7 out of 10 it's a good movie. That's a solid movie. A 7 out of 10 is a solid movie. That's 3 points away from being perfect. It's a couple points of, the middle line is 5. That's the difference between a decent movie or a not decent movie. And up to 7, 3 points away from 10. 7 is a solid movie. 7 is a solid movie. I believe in all the years I was giving numerical scores, I believe I only ever gave, I think, 7 or maybe 8 10s. Seriously, in all the years that I reviewed movies, I think I only gave 7 or 8 10 out of 10s. I believe 10 out of 10 is something that should be really rare. Really, really rare. And then I see a bunch of people hand out 35 10 out of 10s in a year. To me, it's something that should be extremely rare, but that's how I interpret it. So what started happening is I'd give something like a movie that I quite enjoyed, I thought was really solid, something people should go see, and I'd give it a 7 out of 10. And then inevitably what would happen is, and predictably what would happen is, I get all these people, John hated that movie. So, what the F are you talking about? I hated that movie. I gave it a 7 out of 10. Yeah, that means you hated it. That means you didn't like it. No, it doesn't mean I didn't like it. Why didn't you give it a 10? Well, because I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it's a perfect film. I think there are things that it did well that maybe it could have done better and maybe had a couple of weeks. No, and it became infuriating to me. It became absolutely infuriating to me. And then on top of that, you get these armchair quarterbacks who are safely behind their anonymous little keyboards that, if I give one thing, like I had an experience that came out, man, I got to give that an 8.1. And then, maybe 4 years later, I come out another movie, go, wow, I really like that. I'm going to give it an 8. Oh, so Kate, you're saying that movie from 4 years ago is better than this one? I'm not necessarily saying that. It's just that the experience I had at the time, I came out, I gave it a rating an 8.1. Yeah, but you just gave this one an 8. That means you're saying that movie is better than that one. You have no credibility to me. And I'm like, oh my God, are you effing kidding me? And so when you start combining all that stuff, the fact that everything was a 10, 10, 10, the fact that everybody has a different interpretation for what a certain numerical score might mean. Some people see 7 for what it should be, good and solid. Some people look at 7 as being awful and it sucks. And so what's the point of giving, I just started asking myself, what's the point of me giving a numerical score if different people are looking at that score and completely coming up with their own interpretations of what that score means? What's the point? So I decided about 2 years ago, I think it was about 2 years ago, I decided to just, you know what? I'm just going to review the movie. And I'm just going to say, I really enjoyed it. Or I think it's great. Or I think it's bloody fantastic. Or I think it's not good, but not terrible either. Or say it's terrible. Or I'm just going to say what I think about the movie, and I'm not going to bother giving it scores. And I'll tell you what, when I stopped giving scores, it upset. I got some angry emails from people. And I don't know why, but it's like people are addicted, and I am too a little bit. I'm a numbers guy. I love the math and stats, and I do. I'm one of those guys too, so I kind of get it. So there are some people who are a little bit upset or disappointed that I didn't give numerical scores anymore. But I just felt like if I'm going to get across what I really think about a movie, it's just the best way to do it. Because instead of me giving a number and you making up a meaning for what that number means, I'll just tell you what I think. Not great, not terrible. It's really good. It's super solid. One of the best movies I've ever seen. One of the worst films of the year. So I'll just say what I think, and then I'll leave it up to everybody else to do numerical. Anyway, I know I went on too long about that, but it's still something to this day. Whenever I do a review, it's inevitable. Whenever I put out a review of something, I get somebody writing me say, but John, why didn't you give it a score? What score would you give it? And then I tell them, well, I actually don't give scores to things. Well, why not? Well, and there it is. There's why. Anyway, I know that's not even what you were asking for, Noel. And then I know 3.6 Rotten Gen is probably a reference to something that I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, just brought up the topic in my head. All right. Ryan Lona writes, one Emmy definitely for Chernobyl is makeup. Well, again, it's too early to call. For all we know, there's going to be other shows that come out between now and the end of the year, or whatever the Emmy eligibility time is, that might do way better than Chernobyl did. But I mean, the makeup in Chernobyl was gruesome and awe-inspiring and fantastic and terrifying and all that kind of stuff at the same time, Ryan. All right. Josh Bing sends in a really generous super chat. Thank you so much for supporting the channel on that level, Josh. Appreciate it, man. Josh writes, hey, John. Been following since the AMC days. Thank you so much, brother. Since Far From Home established the snap tore a hole in our dimension. Remember, it doesn't establish anything. We haven't seen the movie yet. We don't know what that meaning is. And Robert Meyer Burnett still has a theory that everything that Mysterio is talking about, multi-dimensional, all that kind of, might be a lie. So let's not say anything until we see the movie. Let's not say anything is established yet. So let's just be clear about that. All right. Since Far From Home established that the snap tore a hole in our dimension, it's interesting to think Thanos might have not fully understood the stone's power. What do you think? I don't know. See, there's two ways of looking at it. It's an interesting question. I think there are two ways of looking at it. The one way of looking at it, remember, this is just off the top of my head. The one way of looking at it is that, number one, there is no true expert on the Infinity Stones in the universe. Even the people in the universe who are the most knowledgeable about the stones know probably very little about it. And what they do know is probably just scratching the surface. That being said, the one way you could look at it is that Thanos underestimated the power of the stones, and that utilizing that the way would tear open time and space and all that other types of stuff. However, one could also make an argument that ripping a hole and opening up dimensions in time could suggest that the stones aren't as powerful as we think. Because you would think if the stones were that powerful, that they could do exactly what they were supposed to do, and they would be powerful enough not to have other repercussions, right? You would think if they're that all powerful, that they could do what they were going to do, in this case, eradicate half of life in the universe, without having auxiliary damage, right? You would think that. An expert barber can shave shaving cream off a balloon without popping the balloon. Somebody who's bad at it would probably pop. Somebody who doesn't have great barber powers would probably pop the balloon, but somebody with great barber powers could do it and the balloon would be totally fine, right? So there's two ways of looking at it. The stones are beyond the power that he thought, and therefore caused a ripple and a rip in time, space, and dimensions. Or they're not as powerful as we thought, and using them created a whole bunch of, external damage to different things. The time-space continuum, blah, blah, blah. It's an interesting philosophical kind of discussion that we like to have. It would be like a totally nerdy discussion to have, absolutely, which is the type we like to have. But it's an interesting observation, and it's an interesting question. Does the collateral damage of the stones, if there is any, which I don't believe is established yet, let's see the movie, but if there is collateral damage from the use of the stones, does that suggest the stones are more powerful than we thought? Or does it suggest that maybe they're not as powerful as we thought? It's an interesting question, Josh. Everybody jump down in the comment section and let me know what you think about Josh's inquiry there. Does it mean they're more powerful than we thought or less powerful than we thought? That's interesting. And then again, we might say Spider-Man Far From Home and it totally destroys all of our theories anyway, but we're only a few weeks away from that. Okay, Chris Feldman writes, sad day of binge watching if you're a music fan. Surviving R. Kelly and Leaving Neverland. The Michael Jackson documentary, if true, wow on both. Yeah, I gotta say, I don't know much about the R. Kelly stuff other than all the news reports. I don't know anything about the situation other than what he's accused of, and I did not watch the documentary. As far as Leaving Neverland goes, I also have never seen it, but I've seen a lot of people. And again, I have no skin in this game. I have no dog in this hunt. I have no bias in this one way or the other. I don't care about Michael Jackson. He was a great musician, gave us some all-time great music, but I really don't care about him one way or the other after that. But it's funny that when that was going around, a lot of people put together like documents about, okay, here's what that documentary is ignoring. And a lot of people have a lot of stuff that they say is evidence that really refutes all this stuff, and stuff that, they say that the documentary filmmaker had an agenda, that he wanted to paint the picture a certain way and very selectively left a lot of important stuff out of his documentary because the stuff he left out of his documentary didn't tell the narrative that he wanted to tell. Again, I don't know if any of that's true. I really don't care if any of that's true. But the R. Kelly stuff, no idea. I think the Michael Jackson stuff is interesting. I mean, I don't know. But I've been saying for years, a lot of people would ask me over the years, when are they going to do a Michael Jackson biopic? And I've been saying for years, all the way back to the AMC days, hell, even all the way back to my movie blog days, what I would say was, I don't know what studio would want to make that movie because it's a no-win situation. You make the movie in such a way that it shows him to completely be exonerated, and you tell your movie, and your movie shows him not to be a pedophile and not to be all that kind of stuff, you're going to piss a lot of people off. However, you make your movie in such a way that shows him to be all those things, you're going to piss a lot of other people off. It's a no-win situation. And so I've been saying for years, I don't know why any studio would want to make a biopic about Michael Jackson. Because there's no way you can make that movie and not have armies of protesters on one side or the other protesting outside of your movie and being angry at you for making that movie. I just don't see how there's any win. I don't see how there's any win. What do I believe? I don't believe anything. When it comes to the Michael Jackson stuff, I don't believe I truly know enough of the information to have an informed opinion, and it's something that's so radically terrible and so radically unimaginable that I don't want to spout an opinion on this particular thing if I don't have the real information. But that's just me. I'm not saying nobody else should have an opinion, not at all. If you've got an opinion on it, that's awesome. I'm just saying I'm abstaining. I am abstaining from this because I just simply don't know enough about it. But yeah, that sounds like a depressing double feature, Chris. Absolutely. All right, Spencer Smothers writes, what are your thoughts on the U.S. soccer team celebrating goals after scoring so many in their game against Thailand, 13-0? Was it poor sportsmanship? Well, I would say this. Scoring a goal in the World Cup, whether it's, and I believe that, isn't that what's going on right now, the Women's World Cup? Clearly, I don't follow soccer very closely. But is that not what's going on right now, the Women's World Cup? Let me just look that up here. Women's World Cup. Yeah, 2019. That's what's going on right now. Scoring a goal, if you're a soccer player and you've played your whole life playing soccer and you love the sport and you reach the highest of heights in getting to the World Cup, and you're playing in the World Cup and you're representing your country, and you've spent 15 years playing this game and training and working your ass off to get to the highest of height pinnacles ever, and you get to score a goal in the World Cup, I'll say this. It's real easy for me and you to sit back who are not in the situation and tell other people how they should react. It's really easy for you and me to do that because I do this too. I do. I admit it. It's terrible that I do, but we do it. It's real easy for us to sit back not being in that situation and telling other people who are in the situation how they should be reacting. My opinion is kind of, you know what? If I'm in the World Cup, if soccer was my life, and I've dedicated my life to that game and becoming the best player I can, and I make my national team representing my country, and I get out there on the biggest stage there is in the game, and I score a goal, I don't care if it's the goal that put my team up 1-0. I don't care if it's the goal that put up my team 25-0. I'm probably excited as hell, and it's probably going to show. I am probably as excited as hell, and it's probably going to show. Now, it's a little bit different for NFL or stuff like that. It's like, come on, guys, you play a game every single week. You've scored touchdowns before. Act like you've been there before. I kind of feel that way a little bit about the NFL. But when it comes to like something, an event that happens once every 4 years, something that most soccer players will never have a chance to play in their life, and those that do probably will only get to play in one. It's not a lot of players that get to play in multiple World Cups. And you get there representing your country and you score, man, it'd be hypocritical of me to condemn the celebrating, because I gotta say, I probably would too. And I can't even say like what I would say to NHL players or to NFL players and say, come on guys, act like you've been there before, because they never have been there before. They've never played in a World Cup before. At least most of them haven't. And maybe what you just did, scoring a goal in the World Cup, might be something you never do again for the rest of your life. I ain't going to tell a young lady she shouldn't celebrate. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I'm wrong. But my initial thought is, hell, when you understand the whole circumstances, I ain't telling a young lady she can't celebrate a goal on that stage, something she's worked her whole life for and she may never do again for the rest of her life. And I'm going to tell her she shouldn't celebrate just because her team's winning? I don't know. That doesn't sit right with me. It doesn't sit right with me. Anyway, that's how I feel about it. Okay. Daniel Weissy writes, J-Law is older than or Rebecca Romijn when she was in the first X-Men. Oh, is that true? That is a really interesting little factoid. Oh, Rebecca Romijn as Mystique. Few things sexier, guys. Few things sexier in the history of moviedom. It just there's a special place in my heart for that. She was great as that, but I like her in general, by the way. Lone Wolf X6 writes, cross the street, face that fence, and stay there forever. Kilgrave. I don't know if that was in part 3. If it is in season 3, you shouldn't be. Don't give away spoilers, Lone Wolf. Come on, Jessica, don't play the hero with me. Also, again, from Jessica Jones. Jersey Kid writes, do you still do your March Movie Madness brackets? I remember having so much fun with those. I didn't do one last year. You know, I started those when I was with AMC. The March Movie Madness. And we did a couple of great ones. All-time villains, all-time animated, stuff like that. I really liked. The problem was, it took a lot of work went into those videos. A lot of work would go into those videos. From, tallying all the votes, creating the graphics, all that kind. It was a lot of work. And it was a lot of work when I had a team of people working with me. When I was back at AMC and, I would have like a staff at the time of, I don't know, I had like a 10-person staff or whatever. And even then it was a lot of work. So last year I didn't do one. I love them though, and I would love to do them again. I just got to see where I'm at workload-wise when it comes, because it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work, so I hope to do one again this March. I didn't do one this past March, but maybe I will this next one, so keep your eyes open. All right, Colby Harris writes, my best friend is getting married. Oh, that's awesome, dude. Have a good time at the wedding. Weddings are great. I know there are people who are pessimistic in the world. I get why. But you know what? Weddings are beautiful things, and with your best friend, that's awesome. Have a good time, Colby. All right. Timbula the Spider Monkey writes, do you think the Jack Ryan series has stopped the prospects of another movie being made anytime soon? Would you want one? I didn't mind Shadow Recruit, but it's a major step down from the other films. Yeah, I didn't love Shadow Recruit either, but I thought it was all right. I thought Shadow Recruit was okay. I still have not watched the John Krasinski series. My guess would be that the success of the series, and I can't remember, can somebody tell me if it actually got renewed for season 2? Did it get renewed for season 2? I can't remember, but I remember it was they said they considered season 1 of Jack Ryan a success. My guess would be, Timbula, that it probably does, while that series is ongoing, it probably does hurt the prospects of another movie. But I'll tell you this as well. What I think hurts the prospects of another Jack Ryan movie isn't so much a successful Jack Ryan show, but rather an unsuccessful last movie. The last Jack Ryan movie, which of course starred Chris Pine and directed by the great Kenneth Branagh, and I love Kenneth Branagh. He was also, I believe, the villain in that. That movie lost money. That movie only made $135 million worldwide. If you're looking for things that hurt the chances of another Jack Ryan movie, I think we're looking in the wrong place at a successful television series. And I think we just got to go back to the last Jack Ryan movie that kind of didn't do well. It wasn't received very well critically. It didn't make much money and actually lost money. Only made $50 million in total domestically. $50 million in total domestically. I mean, it's not the worst result in the world, but for a movie that cost $60 million to produce, plus they marketed the hell out of it, they probably spent another $60 million on marketing it. It's not the result you want. It means your movie actually ended up losing money. And that's what's going to hurt it more than anything else. But if we're just going to confine the conversation to just the TV series, yeah, having a successful ongoing TV series doesn't help the chances of another movie getting made. That much is for sure, Timbula. All right, excellent question, man. All right, Daniel Weissy writes, no trailer yet for Felipe. Should we be worried? In this one case, I will suggest that maybe you should be worried about the future of the Felipe, the sentient dancing microphone thing. I think this is the one time I would say maybe there's something to be worried about. All right, Lone Wolf X6 writes, Frank Castle, you know what I think of you? I think you're a half measure. I think you're a man who can't finish the job. I think that you're a coward. That, I believe, is from Daredevil Season 2 when he's talking to Matt. My God. I mean, that is one of the great... you can't just call this scene because it kind of spans most of that episode, but that's one of the best, I don't know, segments, settings, sequences, maybe we call it. That whole thing was great. And it just reminds me that I have still yet to watch Punisher Season 2. I still haven't watched Punisher Season 2, and I love Punisher Season 1. Love it. I honestly, I got to get around. Yet another reason why I don't have any time for Jessica Jones Season 3 is because I still haven't watched Punisher Season 2. I got to get on that. You know what? Screw it. I think I'm going to start watching it this week. I'm going to start watching Punisher Season 2 this week. I got to get on that because I just love the character so much. Thank you for reminding me of that, Lone Wolf. All right. Clay Woodley writes, John Cena has officially joined Fast 9. Do you know what that means, right? John Cena is going to be the immortal Dominic Toretto's next victim. Oh, there's no doubt. No doubt about that. He will fall to Dominic Toretto because Dominic Toretto is the one true Mary Sue in all of moviedom. He's the one true Mary Sue in all of moviedom. And that's really too bad. And you know what? Right now, actually, we're very lucky. Right now, we have in studio right now. I was going to say this. I was going to surprise you guys a little bit, but actually, in studio right now, we are very pleased to have John Cena. John Cena's here in studio. He just wants to say hello to everybody really quick. John Cena, why don't you wave hello to everybody? There he is, John Cena, waving hello to everybody. Look at that big smile. You've done some stuff on your dental work, John. It looks great. Good to have you in here, Mr. Cena. Good to have you in here today. So thank you for joining us today on the John Campea Show, and good luck shooting Fast and the Furious 9. So anyway, all right. Thank you to John Cena for coming in and doing that. All right. Some people are saying there was a problem with the video. I don't know. You couldn't see him? Anyway, let's move on here. The next question today, but yes, he will fall and lose to Dominic Toretto. Of that, now that The Rock isn't there to job to Dominic Toretto, now for sure they brought in John Cena just to be the next guy to fall to John Toretto. Okay, or to Dominic Toretto. All right. Let's move on here. Who was that? That was Clay. All right, we'll move on now to Cards Fan 82. And Cards Fan 82 writes, love how movies bring people together, no matter age, race, political beliefs, economic status. The John Campea Show is a perfect example of that. Just people talking about movies. Thank you for this great community. Oh, thank you so much for that, Cards Fan. A lot. And listen, seriously, it is the best thing about the movies. It's the best thing about the movies. I've talked about this before. I've said it at length, passionately. It's what I love about film. One of the things that I love about film so damn much. And that is this. And, you know, I told this story. Let me tell it in just quick. I remember being at Comic-Con and calling an Uber to take me from the house I was staying in down to the convention center one night for an event that was going on. And the guy who picked me up was clearly of Middle Eastern descent. Didn't speak very good English. He could get by, but it was broken English at best. This is a guy who comes from a different cultural background than me. Ethnically, he's very different from me. He works in the service sector. I work in the entertainment business. There is nothing about us that we had in common. Nothing. There was nothing he and I had in common. And I can't remember what started it, whether we drove by a billboard or something and something came up. And before you knew it, he and I started talking about The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. And we started talking about our favorite scenes in Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. And it was about a 9-minute car ride because I wasn't staying far from the convention center. But it was a fun conversation. Here you had in this car two people that could not be more different. Couldn't be more different. But we started talking about movies. And we had that in common. And we were able to sit there and laugh and get excited about a movie together. It's just one of the greatest things in the world about movies. You can sit down at a table with somebody of a completely different background in terms of socioeconomical background, sexual orientation background, cultural background, ethnic background, educational background. It doesn't gender differences. It doesn't matter. You can sit down at a table with almost anybody in the world. And if you've got a translator, start talking about movies, and it's the best thing. I'm a regular human being. I have political beliefs, but when we come together as movie fans, that's not important. And that's why I don't bring up politics in my show at all. Again, issues of human equality and gender equality, those are not political issues. Those are human issues. And I do bring those up from time to time because those should be above and beyond anybody's political status. But other than that, we don't bring up politics here on this show. Not because politics aren't important or anything like that, but because we're here as movie fans. It doesn't matter if you're white, black, gay, straight, rich, poor, politically left, politically right, born in this country, not born in this country, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's the movies. And we can put all that garbage aside and get together as movie fans and talk about movies. And that is one of the great things and one of the big reasons why I love movies so much. And thank you, Cards fan, for bringing that up. And that does make this a great place to be. Just being in the film fan community is a great place to be. And I'm glad we get to be one branch of that film fan community. And it's awesome. So thank you for that, Cards fan. I appreciate it. All right. Chris Feldman writes, are Oscar voters required to see a movie they vote for? If not, how funny Rotten Tomatoes has stricter requirements for voting than the Academy. Well, I mean, here's the thing. The Oscars and the Academy clearly encourage everybody to watch not all the 500 movies that come out that year, clearly, but at least to watch all the major players. I'd say the top 60, 70 films are going to have some major consideration. Make sure you've watched those. And you can even say you have a rule, which I don't think they have a rule. But even if you did have a rule that you must watch the movies you voted for, there's no way to enforce that, right? There's no way to enforce that. This is why there is a great fail-safe built into the Academy system, and that is sheer volume. Sheer volume is a safety net for the odd, because do I believe there's the odd idiot in the Academy who takes the privilege of being a voting Academy member for granted and doesn't see some of the movies they vote for or don't vote for? Do I believe there's the odd idiot in the voting membership of the Academy that would say something stupid like, I don't plan on ever voting for a movie with the title Avengers in the title, no matter what? Do I believe that there is the odd idiot like that? Absolutely, I do believe. But I also believe they're in the vast minority. And when you've got a voting body like the Golden Globes, which I think are completely useless, where you've got like 65 members, guess what? You get 5 idiots in that 65 membership. That's a major percentage of your voting body. The Academy, though, has a voting membership of over 7,000. 1,000 members. Sheer numbers will drown out the anomalies. Sheer numbers will safeguard the integrity. It doesn't mean they're going to vote for things that you think should be voted for or whatever, but the sheer numbers will safeguard that a lot against the odd person who votes for La La Land that never even saw La La Land. Is there going to be the odd twit like that? Yeah, there will. But the sheer numbers of it are going to safeguard against the weak. Let's just say the Academy is the big herd, and those idiots and those fools are the weak. The sheer number of the herd will protect against the weak, the weaknesses of the weak. So that's kind of what I like about that. So again, I'm not sure if there's an official rule, but even if there is a rule, there's no real way to enforce it. But it's okay because those people would be in the vast minority, and the sheer number of voters are going to wash out and diminish and wipe out any influence their stupid vote would have in the overall process. Anyway, that's why I see that as one of the major strengths of the Academy, to be honest with you. Okay, Ryan Lona writes, I'm expecting the next movie to have Toretto make someone drop dead by shouting family at them. Well, there was a meme that went around for a bit, Ryan, because remember, there was a lot of rumors, I believe they were true, that Dominic Toretto was going to play, what was the name of the character in Inhumans? I can't remember the name of the lead guy, the King. Anyway, he's the guy who, when he speaks, it can destroy mountains with his voice, right? There was a meme going around that he was going to do that, and you can look it up. There was a meme where he goes, family, and then it just destroys everything around him, right? I wouldn't be surprised at all if at some point they look, the Fast and Furious movies, and I eat them up. I enjoy the Fast and Furious movies. No matter how ridiculous they get, I eat them up. But they are getting so ridiculous, at some point they're number one going to space, and at some point Dominic Toretto is going to have some kind of mutant power, and probably shouting family is going to be like havoc and is going to kill people on the spot. All right, Orange Hand writes, Mr. Nobody from Deadpool? Oh, Mr. Nobody, of course. From Doom Patrol is so ridiculous that terrifying. I love Doom Patrol, and I love Mr. Nobody. That show is so wacky, man. That show is so wacky. They do such strange crap in that show. I flexed the wrong muscle. Unbelievable show. And you're right. I love Mr. Nobody as a villain. Totally dig him. All right. Javier Riaz 405 writes, one of two. When I watched Guardians of the Galaxy 2 in theaters, I was pretty underwhelmed. So I haven't seen the movie since then, just until recently, about 1 month ago. And I gotta say, it's actually pretty good. I was impressed. It still has its weaknesses, like too much comedy from Drax and Baby Groot, but I felt it had strong emotional scenes between characters. You know what? I felt the same way you did, Javier. I didn't love Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Now, partially because I thought it was a significant step down from Guardians of the Galaxy 1, which I think is nothing short of utter genius. And I think James Gunn is phenomenal. That said, I liked Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I liked it, but I didn't think it was special like Guardians 1 was. And a lot of the things that you're pointing out are things that I had a problem with as well. They turned Drax the Destroyer, who is supposed to be an unrelenting machine of destruction, into nothing but the butt of jokes. He's completely been, I'm totally convinced everybody, including James Gunn, who I adore James Gunn. But I think even James has kind of misused Drax since Guardians of the Galaxy 1. Like Guardians of the Galaxy 1, he's great. He's feared. People do not want to mess with him, all that kind of stuff. And then they just made him the punchline of all the jokes. And it's like, really? Like in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, he doesn't have a single action sequence. Other than in the opening titles when everybody's fighting that big giant monster, other than that, he has no action in this movie. How do you have Drax the Destroyer have zero action in an action comic book movie? I'm not sure. But then I thought they misused him in Infinity War. Finally, they showed him stabbing something in the back in Endgame, so we'll give Endgame a pass. But I never thought it was bad. I still thought it was good. Like, I still liked the film. And maybe it's been a long time. I'd never watched Guardians 2 again. I don't think I did. Maybe I did. I don't think I did. I don't think I ever watched Guardians 2 after its theatrical run. I saw it a couple times in theaters. I don't think I've watched it again since. Maybe I should go back and give it another shot. Not really sure, but maybe I should. But again, it's already a movie I consider to be a good film. I just thought it was a step down from Guardians 1, which I think is a bloody brilliant film. But anyway, there's that. All right. Garrett Couch writes, let's see. Hope DC eventually makes theatrical versions of Tower of Babel. That really is a great character study. I know I'm thinking of the wrong thing. Hold a second. I know I'm thinking of the wrong thing. Okay, yes, I was thinking of the wrong thing. I was thinking of something else entirely. So this was a story from the 2000. This isn't the one where Batman had the plans to take everybody out, is it? Tower of Babel details with Batman's perceived betrayal of the superhuman community by concealing hidden records. Oh no, that is exactly what I was thinking of. Okay, yeah. They actually did that in animated form too. They did that story. So, and actually in the end, look, I'm not a big fan of DC or Marvel animated stuff. There's a few exceptions. The Doctor Strange movie I thought was good. The Dark Knight Returns was pretty good. Under the Red Hood was pretty good. But for the most part, I don't like any Marvel or DC animated stuff for the most part. But there's this great line when they did kind of an animated kind of version that takes off in that story. So basically, Batman, the Justice League discovers that Batman has kept hidden files and plans and strategies for how to take down every single member of the Justice League. And other than that, in the animated thing, it ends with Batman, basically him and the Justice League are arguing it out. And Batman finally makes this big final plea and says, look, we are the most dangerous people in the world. And if you don't think we need to have a fail-safe in place for us, then I don't belong here and I don't want to be a part of this. And this is how it ends in the anime thing. So he goes to leave, they're in the watchtower and he's about to teleport back down to Earth. And Superman approaches him at the end and it says, so just out of curiosity, Bruce, do you have a fail-safe for you? Because you're the most dangerous guy in the world. Is there, or did you just make the fail-safe plans for us? And this is a great line. I don't like the cartoons, but this is a great line. And Batman says back to Superman, I do have a fail-safe plan for me. You. And which I just thought was I thought that was a great line. But anyway, that would be interesting, but there would be so much you'd have to do. There's so much groundwork you'd have to lay to get a movie like that up and made. There's so much narrative groundwork that has to be done in other movies first to set that stage. Because you'd already have to know the Justice League and know each member and know the dynamics between all of them and know the specific dynamic between Batman and that. And I just don't know that you can just come out of nowhere like you can with a cartoon. I don't know if you can just come out of nowhere and just make a movie with that theme. I'm not sure if you can. Maybe you can. Maybe there is a way to do it. I don't know. It seems like it's something that it's not a movie a first timer can just jump into and fully grasp what's going on, right? It seems to me like it's a story that you can only fully appreciate if you already understand this whole DC world. But maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe there's a way to do it. Anyway, I do have a fail-safe plan for me. You. I love that line. Okay. Javier Rios 405 writes. Oh, sorry. We've already covered that part. All right, guys, listen. I'm going to do two more here. I'm going to do two more, and then I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break to go and refill my drink, give my voice just a minute to rest, and use the bathroom quick, and then we'll pick right back up, okay? So I'm going to do these next two questions from Darth Wayne and from Jay Miller, and then we're just take a short break, okay? All right, Darth Wayne 97 writes, saw Us last night. Peele yet again shows he is great with the camera. Score was great. Lupita Nyong'o, wow. Only negative I have is the end. Didn't make much sense, but overall it was great. See, here I enjoyed Us very much, but I gotta say, overall that movie makes no sense. It makes no sense. John, you just didn't understand it. No, I understood it. But when you go over everything that happens in this movie, in light of what the overall picture is, you realize none of this makes any sense. But you know what? Whatever. The experience was great. Lupita Nyong'o, if the Academy Awards were held tomorrow, she would not only get nominated, she should win Best Actress. It's going to be hard for her not to get a Best Actress nomination. She's just remarkable in this movie. So unless some really big heavy hitters come up for the rest of the year, I won't be surprised if she gets nominated for an Academy Award for it. It's a great watching experience. The movie is a lot of fun to watch, and it's great. But it doesn't make any sense. When you go through all the different things, in case people haven't seen it, I'm not going to go into it point by point. There's a lot of things in this movie that just absolutely make no sense. And you know what? Fine. I can live with that because the experience of watching it was so fun. So I can live with that. But yeah, I'm kind of with you on that, Darth Wayne. I'm kind of with you. It was a great movie. I enjoyed it immensely. But it wasn't just the ending. You just got to understand that in light of the ending, it means if you go back through the movie, a lot of the things that happen in this movie make zero logical sense when you consider what the ending of the movie is. And it just was kind of weird. And I remember coming out of the movie, having really enjoyed it, but me and my buddy went and sat down and had dinner. And he had gone to see it in a different theater at a like 20 minutes before me. And then I saw it in another theater, and we just arranged to meet up for dinner afterwards. And that's all we talked about. It's like, wait a minute. So if this happens at the end, then this scene, that makes no sense. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, that scene makes no sense. And we just went through it. But I don't want to take away, though, from the fact that it's a really fun, great theatrical experience. I think Jordan Peele is 2 for 2 when it comes to his things, when it comes to his movies. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does next. But just because I like the movie a lot doesn't mean I'm going to bury my head in the sand about the things that didn't make sense. That's just how I feel about it. All right. Jay Miller writes, are you excited for Justin Kurzel's new Western, True History of the Kelly Gang with Russell Crowe and Nicholas Hoult? I'm a big fan of Kurzel's work. Just the premise sounds great. Okay, here's the thing about that. Other than the fact, let me bring it up on IMDb. Other than the fact of its existence, I actually know very, very little about it. Like the last time I watched Russell Crowe in a Western was in 3:10 to Yuma, and that's great. Charlie Hunnam is in it, so I like Charlie Hunnam. Nicholas Hoult, which he came close to being Batman. I've always said I've always really liked him and all that kind of stuff. So all that's really good. So just based on that alone, it's something to be excited about. The problem is, Kurzel also directed Assassin's Creed, which is straight up vomitous garbage. It's straight up just pure, vile, putrid garbage. It's awful. And the film he did before that, Macbeth, which had a lot of promise and had the same cast, or the same couple of leads as went on to that did Assassin's Creed with Michael Fassbender, was also not very good. So I'm a little bit torn. I don't know much about the movie. I really don't know what they're going for in it. But I do know I get excited because Russell Crowe, I think he's one of the greatest actors living today. The last time I saw him in a Western was 3:10 to Yuma, which I loved. You got Nicholas Hoult in there, who I think is great. You got Charlie Hunnam, who, I love him in Sons of Anarchy. Let's just leave it at that. So I got some reasons to be excited, but I'm not excited for him as a director. And I'm just being honest with you. Because Assassin's Creed is one of, I cannot undersell this. Assassin's Creed is one of the worst movies I've seen in years. It's one of the worst movies I've seen in years. It's really awful. Now, you may like it, and that's great. All film's subjective. I'm simply giving you my perception and my point of view on it. And it's a movie I had so much hope for. So, yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see. All right, guys, listen. We're going to take a little break now. We're going to take a break for about 5 minutes here while I go and refill my drink, and we're able to push on for the rest of the show. And we will get back to the show in just 5 minutes. So we'll see you in just a few minutes. Hang tight. All right, and we are back. Thank you so much, guys, for being patient with me and letting me take a little break. I went and refilled my drink, and now we are ready to keep on rolling with the questions you guys have sent in today. All right, let's move on here. The next one comes to us from Javier Rios 405, who writes, a favorite scene of mine was when Mantis placed her hand, oh, you're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy 2 still. A favorite scene of mine was when Mantis placed her hand on Drax and felt the pain he had over the loss of his family. She started crying as well. Yeah, that was really nice. That was a nice scene, actually. And there was some great humor. Like, I was complaining a little bit earlier that all they did was use Drax for comic relief and all that kind of stuff. But that's not to say they didn't have some good comic stuff for him in there. It's not to say they didn't have some good comic stuff for him to do. They did. Some of the stuff, including the jokes between him and Mantis, about how Mantis is horrible and disgusting looking and all that kind of stuff. Which, of course, how do you pronounce her Palm's last name? Kilteef or something like that. She's gorgeous. I sat beside her at a premiere once. She's like stunningly beautiful. But there was some really good humor, and that was a really good moment, Javier. I got to give you that. That is actually a really nice moment in the film. All right, James Boner writes, are you and Ann watching season 3 of Handmaid's Tale? We are. That's a show. Right now, of all the shows that are airing, that's the one show we watch together right now. For the shows that are airing at the moment, that's the one show we watch together. We watch Handmaid's Tale. This is a great show. Handmaid's Tale is freaking dynamite. If you don't watch it and you're wondering, why is this Handmaid's Tale winning all these awards? There's a reason. It's freaking awesome television. It's really great. I love it. Javier Rios 405 writes, I did not like Baby Groot. Do you think he will be an adult in Guardians 3? Well, he hasn't been Baby Groot since number 2. He's been teenage Groot, getting older. So he hasn't been Baby Groot for a while. And in Guardians 3, I'm sure he'll be a bit older. He'll be a bit older. I don't think he'll be back to the same status that the other Groot was in Guardians 1, but I do believe he will be older, like a little bit older than what we saw in the movies now. All right. Carlos Camillo writes, recommend us all an LA restaurant. I'm hungry. There's a few restaurants I really like in LA. My favorite, though, is a restaurant. It's actually in Burbank, and it's called Castaway. If you want to look it up, look it up. Just go Castaway Burbank. It's this restaurant that's up in the hills that overlooks the valley, and it's gorgeous. Ann and I, it's our favorite place to go and eat. It's a terrific place. So my recommendation is a place called Castaway in Burbank. KW Garrett 83 writes, other than Handmaid's Tale, anything you like on Hulu? I just canceled HBO after watching Chernobyl and Barry, canceled Amazon after binging Maisel. I think there's a lot of reasons to keep Amazon, and I keep HBO because there's so much good stuff on there. I got to try to get caught up on. Like, I still got to watch Veep. Everybody says Veep is amazing. I've never watched it. I watched a few episodes that I like, but for the most part, I haven't watched it. I got to watch Ballers. It's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's show. I've never watched it. I love Dwayne Johnson, and I've never watched Ballers. I still got to watch the Deadpool movie. I've got to watch the Deadwood movie. The Deadpool movie. I got to watch the Deadwood movie. Hulu, my main thing for Hulu is actually not live television. I have YouTube TV for live television. What I mean is, like, shows that are airing on live television, they always pop up on Hulu the next day. Not all of them, but a bunch of them do. And my main reason for having Hulu is to watch that. That's what I use it mainly to watch. That's my main reason. But it doesn't hurt that Runaways are on there. I love Runaways on Hulu. Obviously, Handmaid's Tale is a big major thing on there. But yeah, so my main reason for having Hulu isn't the Hulu originals. That might change as they put more originals on there. My thing is just for its main airing of shows that are on television. That's why I like it more than anything else. Willow Yang writes, where are we at here? There's Willow. Willow Yang writes, how are you able to talk for 2+ hours every day? I presented a poster at a conference last week and my throat was sore after just 1 hour. What is your secret? Look, I'm not going to lie to you, Willow. You ever see like a baseball game or a baseball movie that after a pitcher has thrown like 100 pitches, whatever, they come out and they're on the bench and they show them with like a pack of ice on their arm, right? I'm not going to lie. That's me after every show. I don't put a pack of ice in my throat, but I'm just sitting there like this. like quiet for hours, just, and I eat and I drink and whatever. It's not easy. You know, here's the funny thing. People would ask me, like when I brought Ashley on, people would ask, well, she's not a movie commentator. Why is she there? People underestimate. I swear to God, people underestimate. Even just having somebody else like an Ashley Whalen, who is so charismatic and has so much personality, and she's so great. But to have her on the show, even just to read the questions, the secret for me is finding ways that I can even take momentary pauses in actually talking. And so like when I would bring up one of the email graphics and she would read the email, just for me to go, not talk, grab my drink. And, you know, that's the other thing. A lot of people complain, oh, it's so annoying when he's always drinking through a show. I'm like, mother effer, you try doing 2 straight hours, 7 hours a day, and you try not having to drink to keep your throat alive. You try it. Anyway, yeah, I agree. Drinking on show is annoying. It's annoying to do it. I got to agree that it must be annoying to watch it, but I got no effing choice. I don't have commercial breaks every 10, 15 minutes. I got to do it. I don't do it often when on the main John Campea show because I can sneak in a sip when the camera's on Robert or whoever my guest is at the time. But like when I'm doing something like open mic, I mean, I've got no choice. So for open mic, the main thing is I have to keep drinking. I just got to keep drinking. And I absolutely do need to take that 5-minute break. Absolutely. But even when I do that stuff, I got to tell you, Willow, at the end of the show, I'm a little bit... It's easier doing the main show because I either have a host, and obviously Ashley's not with us anymore, but I would have the host reading questions, or Rob starts talking, and when those gives me little breaks throughout the show to pause and whatever. So it's actually easier. Open mic's a little harder, because it's nobody else talking, it's just me, and I'm talking for like 2 straight hours. So my strategy is drinking. My strategy is trying not to talk too loud, even though it sounds like I talk pretty loud. And my strategy is I got to make sure I get in that 5-minute break. So that's what I do. And even then, even when I do all that kind of stuff, when I'm done a show, I am wiped out. I am totally wiped out. Like, because it's a lot of people underestimate the mental energy that goes into it. Like, I'm talking live. I'm not even recording this. I'm talking live. Like right now to hundreds and hundreds of people live. When I'm doing the John Campea Show, I'm talking to thousands of people live. And I've got like 30 or 40 different facts I need to pull up in my head every like 5 minutes. I'm running, switching, I'm controlling the audio, I'm doing the switching between the cameras, I'm bringing up all the graphics, I'm trying to do the stream control all at the same time. I'm doing all this stuff. And by the time the show is done, 2 hours later, I am mentally destroyed. I'm just mentally fried. And so between the voice and all that, when a show is done, you'd laugh if you saw me. Because a show is done and I'm just like, I go downstairs, I put something together to eat, and I turn on the TV for about an hour and I don't make a sound. I just sit there and don't make a freaking sound. So there's a reason. There's a reason a lot of people don't do what I do. There's a reason there are a lot of people who are not as stupid as me and try to do a 2-hour live show off the top of my head, all this kind of stuff, controlling everything, no editing, blah, 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 blah. There were very few people dumb enough as me to try to do what I do every day. It's you got to be a special kind of dumb. And apparently that's me. But anyway, that's how I kind of manage and get through it. So that's very considerate of you to ask, Willow. Thank you for that. All right. Scarlet Witch's husband writes, I finally saw Silence of the Lambs. Powerful movie. Was the flick of the semen to the face really necessary? Well, look, necessary? No. That's an iconic scene when she's walking through, she's in the cell area and there's a guy, pleasuring himself in the cell and then whips it at her. But what it does, it's a tool in the bag of the director to create a mood and an atmosphere. And it's all stuff to get us to kind of feel maybe what the character is feeling. Disgust, fear, uncertainty, and something like that happens, it just builds into all that. So was it necessary? No. But was it effective? And I think for what it was communicating to the audience, and like all the apprehension that Clarice was feeling in that moment, it was actually pretty effective. So I thought it was a good shot. Scarlet Witch's husband follows up with a really generous super chat. Thank you for that, Scarlet. I appreciate that, man. Speaking about, always gotta love any conversation that starts with the words, hey, you know what? Speaking about jizz. Yeah, that you always know you're in for a doozy of a conversation when that's the starting phrase. Okay, let's start. Speaking about jizz, which scene made you explode in your pants the most? Number 1. That's my secret, Captain. I'm always angry. Oh, that's a great one. I do like that one a lot. It probably won't be at the top of my list, though. Like the old man said, together. 3, Bring Me Thanos. That was good. 4, Avengers Assemble. I mean, I gotta say, look, overall, which was the better one? It was the Bring Me Thanos was the better one. But we've been waiting for 11 years to hear Captain America say, Avengers Assemble. I'm not the biggest fan in the world of how they did it, because Avengers Assemble. I just, like, I expected all these hundreds of warriors to go, what? What? Wait, did he say what? What are we supposed to do? Avengers Assemble. I wasn't a big fan of that. I thought he should have raised the hammer up and screamed, Assemble! And have everybody closing on his position and then go in and attack Thanos and his guys. I thought that's how they should do it. But still, despite the fact that I'm not really big on Assemble, I still have been waiting 11 years to hear anybody, but in particular Captain America, say those words. And so on that, I got out of the scenario you're painting for me here, Scarlett, out of these options, I got to go with the Avengers Assemble. Even though I think they could have executed it better, it's still, we'd been waiting 11 years. In the heat of that scene, climaxing the portals with everybody coming through the portals, and it climaxes with that. I got to go with that scene, my brother. I got to go with that scene. All right. The Canon writes, your preference, X2 versus Spider-Man 2. Oh, that's a Sophie's choice, because there was a long time, there was a number of years when those were your choices, in my opinion, of the greatest comic book of all time. There was a period of time when if you were going to talk about the greatest comic book movie of all time, you were talking about either Spider-Man 2, or you were talking, that's the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock, or you're talking about X-Men 2. Because those movies are great. Ooh, hot damn. Hot damn. I don't know. This is one of those questions where I might give you a different answer next week than I'll give right now, so just let me say that. Right now, where I'm sitting at this very moment, maybe by a hair, I'll give it to X2. Maybe by a hair, I'll give it to X2. But that's a good question, Cannon. Damian Davies writes, greetings, John. Name the killer in Friday the 13th. Well, a lot of people think it's Jason. It's not. The killer, well, unless you're talking about in general. In general, in Friday the 13th, over the franchise, the killer is Jason Voorhees. However, in the original Friday the 13th, it's Pamela Voorhees, Jason's mother, who initially started killing people because she blamed them camp counselors for off screwing each other when her little boy was drowning in the lake. She started killing a lot of people. Anyway, the actual killer in the original Friday the 13th is actually Pamela Voorhees. And a lot of people forget that, understandably so. But Jason wasn't the big bad guy in the first Friday the 13th. Dobby Dad just sends a super chat. Thank you, Dobby Dad. Damian Davies writes, who do you think the better actress is, Julianne Moore or Jodie Foster? And whom do you believe was the better Clarice starring? Oh boy, first of all, Julianne Moore is a treasure. All right? Julianne Moore is a treasure. Jodie Foster's one of the best to ever do it. I'm going to give the slight nod to Jodie Foster. Slight nod to Jodie Foster. And as far as who is the better actress, I'll give a slight nod to Jodie Foster, but believe me, Julianne Moore is I would worship the ground she walks on. She's amazing. As far as who played the better Clarice, it's hard not to go with Jodie Foster on that because she was the original and she kind of set what our expectations were of what Clarice was. So on both counts, I'm going to go with Jodie Foster, but do not interpret that in any way as not being in total reverence of Julianne Moore because she's freaking awesome. Damian Davies writes, Mrs. Voorhees was the killer in Friday the 13th. Yes, she was. Pamela Voorhees. Colby Harris writes, I'm the best man for my best friends. Oh, that's awesome. Congrats. It's always cool. I've been a best man before. It's always fun. I was actually, the wedding I was the best man in actually was really, really special for me. Maybe my best friend ever is actually a girl. And she and I were like tight as anything, best friends. So she goes away for a while. She goes traveling and she meets a guy and it's not like she was gone for 2 weeks. She was gone for like a year. Meets a guy, falls in love, and they decide they're going to get married. So they come back and we're thrilled and all that kind of stuff. And I was really impressed with the dude because Diane, I couldn't be the maid of honor. So, and they were going to do the wedding in Canada, and he wasn't from Canada. So he didn't have his family and support system here. And they asked me if I would be the best man in the wedding. So I didn't even know the guy, like hardly. I just met him and all that kind of stuff, but I got to be the best man in my best friend's wedding, which was pretty awesome. And it's one of my favorite memories. And I still remember she was a big Disney fan. So I wore a white dress shirt because of the best man, but I wore a white dress shirt with a big Goofy on it. And she loved it. Anyway, so yeah, that was my thing. So it's always great when you can just stand up for one of your friends in their wedding. That's awesome. All right. Raymond Verada writes, Director Danny Boyle said that Yesterday is a costly film. In the trailer, there are no CG, no big stars. It was the Beatles music that was pricey. Oh, that I don't doubt. Like, I'm sure it didn't cost him, $50 million to get the rights to the Beatles music for the movie, but I'm sure it was not cheap. I still haven't watched Yesterday. I've been intrigued with this movie ever since I saw the first trailer, but I still haven't seen the movie myself. I got to get around to that. Aaron Kin writes, so I just discovered The Office, and this show is amazing. As much as I like John Krasinski, though, I couldn't imagine him being Captain America. It's hard, because I'll tell you what, when you watch The Office, and like a lot of people, my first exposure to John Krasinski was The Office. It's hard for me to imagine him as anything other than Jim. It is. When I heard he was going to be Jack Ryan, that was almost impossible for me to picture him. And if you describe A Quiet Place to me, it's impossible for me to imagine him being the lead in that movie. The trick is he does then play it and he convinces you he's Jack Ryan, or he convinces you he's the right guy for that movie. That's what actors do. Look, I have very little doubt that had he got the Captain America role, I have very little doubt he would have convinced us. I'm not saying he would have been better than Chris Evans. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, had John Krasinski been cast as Captain America, I bet you anything that today we'd all be going, I can't imagine anybody else other than John Krasinski playing Captain America. I just feel like that's the way it would be. Sujith writes, Ben Affleck double bill last night on Netflix. The Accountant, I freaking love The Accountant. And Live by Night was super fun. Thoughts on Live by Night? I felt it was underrated. I also feel it's underrated. I think it is the least good of all the Ben Affleck directed films, because Ben Affleck just directs magnificence. I thought it was the least good out of all of them, because every movie he's directed has been spectacular. I didn't think By Night was spectacular, but I thought it was pretty solid. I thought it was pretty good. I guess, is it a movie I'm going to watch every year for the rest of my life? No. Is it a movie I'm probably even going to be talking about anymore? Probably not. But I thought it was pretty solid. But it was just, we've come to expect, I felt like we just come to expect so much from, we've come to expect so much from a Ben Affleck directed film that I felt like a lot of people walked away underwhelmed. And I'm not going to make excuses for why other people did or didn't like the movie. I'm just saying this is kind of my gut feeling on it. But I agree. I didn't think it was all that bad. Jared, and I love The Accountant. Jared McBride writes, almost 2 weeks till Spider-Man. Yep, it's June 2nd, my friend, or July 2nd, I should say. 2 weeks till Spider-Man Far From Home, and congrats to the Toronto Raptors winning the NBA title. It was a fun series to watch. I feel bad for Durant and Thompson got hurt. Well, you know who I feel bad for? Kevin Durant, and I feel bad for Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson, by the way, is my favorite player on Golden State. This dude would be an A-level super, would be seen. Make no mistake, Klay Thompson is an elite A-level NBA superstar. He just gets totally overshadowed. They just overlook him. Everybody overlooks him because you've got 2 league MVPs there. You've got Kevin Durant and you've got, why am I freezing on Curry's name? You've got Stephen Curry. So, and that's understandable. If Klay Thompson is on any other team in the NBA, other than the LA Lakers, because you've got LeBron James there, if he is on any other team in the NBA, Klay Thompson is seen as a top 8 player in the NBA. I love Klay Thompson. I think he has more tools than Steph Curry. I think he's almost as good of a shooter as Steph Curry, but I believe he does a lot of other things even better than Steph Curry. I just think he is an elite level MVP candidate kind of player, and he does not get the attention he deserves because he's there with 2 league MVPs in Kevin Durant and Stephen Curry. I feel bad for Kevin Durant that he got injured. I feel bad for Klay Thompson that he got injured. I don't feel bad for the Golden State Warriors that they got injured because the Golden State Warriors are still loaded with MVPs and with 1 league MVP and a number of all-stars on the team. So even with those guys down, the Golden State Warriors had more all-stars and more league MVPs than the Toronto Raptors did, even with Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson down. And they played most of the series with Klay Thompson in the lineup. So I feel bad for those guys. I don't feel bad for the Golden State Warriors. They are still loaded with more talent than most teams in the NBA, even with Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson out. And they still had a shot to win, and they played like they had a shot to win. God, all hats off and due respect to the Golden State Warriors. That team is freaking awesome. And yay, Toronto Raptors. Anyway, thanks for that, Jared. Anyway, Christopher Brickner writes, people say 1939 is the best year in film. Do you agree? I think change in film tastes makes claiming best year hard. Also, I don't like Gone with the Wind. Well, if you don't like Gone with the Wind, I don't know what you do. Look, there are people who say every single year is the best year in film, and I'm not going to sit here right now and go through all the different years and pull up the dates and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not a movie dates guy. I can't even remember what other films came out in 1939. I don't know. So I tend to avoid the whole conversation of what's the best year in film. It's a nonsensical thing. But it is also kind of like trying to say who is the best basketball player ever when you're comparing eras, or who's the best hockey player ever when you're trying to compare eras, because different things happen in different eras, right? Like Gordie Howe, for those of you who know hockey, Gordie Howe played in an era where he's compared against the standard of his era. Athletes have gotten bigger and stronger and faster as the years progress. So then Wayne Gretzky pretty much everybody acknowledges the greatest hockey player of all time, maybe the greatest professional athlete of all time. But it's hard to compare eras, you know what I mean? Because the art has evolved. We have different expectations now. We perceive things differently now than we did then. So it's difficult. On that level, I agree. It is a very, very tricky thing when you're talking about greatest of all times and you're trying to cross that against different eras, because different eras had different circumstances, right? So it's tricky. It is a tricky one, Christopher. The Maz writes, yo, can we talk about what happened to Cinemia? I have talked about what happened to Cinemia. It's a company, they gave it their best shot. They failed. They couldn't make it work. And instead of just dragging it out like a MoviePass did, they waved the white flag and shut down business. I mean, they tried a lot of different things to try to make it work. Some were good ideas, some were terrible ideas. But at the end of the day, they couldn't make it work, and they were losing money, and they closed down, so there's not much more to say. Jersey Kid writes, I have a 4-year-old and rent most my movies on Vudu and don't get out to the theater as often as I'd like. But does renting a film still support the film financially? Yeah, not nearly as much as going to the movies. Not nearly as much as going to the movies. People still today drastically overestimate how much home video stuff actually contributes towards the overall bottom line for a lot of movies. They drastically overestimate it. But it doesn't make a difference? Yes, makes a difference. It still is supporting it for sure. Christopher James writes, if the next Star Wars film will be as divisive as the last one, what will the future hold for the Star Wars franchise? No difference. None. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the next Star Wars movie is the greatest Star Wars movie ever made. It doesn't matter if the next Star Wars movie is the worst Star Wars movie ever made. The Star Wars fandom and its place in pop culture is unmovable. And all you got to do is look back to the prequels. The prequels were devastating. Did it do anything to the fan base? Nope. You know, a lot of people hated the prequels. Did that change anything? No. Some people said it would change things, but it didn't. Some people said, I'll never watch Star Wars again. And they did. Some people said, this has ruined my childhood, and, you know, this has destroyed my childhood, and I'll never... They did. They did. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it didn't change anything. Because no matter what triumphs or tragedies Star Wars movies have moving forward, it will always be built upon the foundation of the original trilogy. And that's never going to change. That's never going to change. So whatever plans Disney has for Star Wars right now, they're not going to change if Episode 9 is the single greatest Star Wars movie of all time. They're not going to change if Star Wars Episode 9 is the single worst Star Wars movie of all time. They're not going to change if it's in the middle and is another divisive movie where half the people really like it and half the people don't. And it's not going to change it. It's not going to change it. That's just where we are. And if the prequel, all you got to do is look at history. The prequels prove, give it a couple years, the Star Wars fan base is still the Star Wars fan base. Yeah, we have more toxic elements in the Star Wars fan base now than we ever have before. And I'm not just talking about people who don't like the movies. I don't like the prequels. So just not liking the movies doesn't make you toxic. Not at all. But there are, unfortunately, some very ugly, cancerous, destructive, toxic elements in Star Wars fandom these days that are more obvious now than they've ever been before. But even then, I think that's the minority. And I really don't think it's going to change anything. Because if anything was going to change it, it would have been the audience's responses to the prequels when they came out. And that didn't damage it. And so I don't think anything's going to damage it at this point. I really don't. No matter how good or how bad. And who knows how Episode 9 is going to be. Who knows? Might be the greatest thing ever. Might be the absolute worst thing ever. And I don't think either is going to change anything. I really don't. Let's see. The Maz writes, wife and I have been wondering, why would Fox let the same writer of The Last Stand, Jumper, and Apocalypse get a second chance with Dark Phoenix? If you're talking about Simon Kinberg? Well, okay, I mean, let's go over a couple things. Because Simon Kinberg is also the guy who wrote, other than Logan, the best X-Men movie ever, which is X-Men Days of Future Past. I mean, not counting Logan, which we should count Logan, but other than Logan, Simon Kinberg also wrote the greatest X-Men movie of all time, in X-Men Days of Future Past. Simon Kinberg also wrote Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which is great, by the way. He wrote Sherlock Holmes, which I thought Sherlock Holmes was great, by the way. Sorry, I'm trying to bring up Simon Kinberg's IMDb page here for some other stuff that he did. Okay, yeah, he also wrote several episodes of Star Wars Rebels, which was great, by the way. Yes, he also wrote Apocalypse, which is bad. Apocalypse is bad. He wrote, you know what, Jumper has its fans. I was in Jumper as an extra. I was in Jumper, even I don't like Jumper all that much, but there are some really good elements of Jumper. And today there's a growing group of people who actually appreciate that movie because the mythology they built in that was actually quite good. But hey, it is what it is. And then when you look at movies that the dude produces, the dude produced the Legion TV series. He's the executive producer of the Legion TV series, which a hell of a lot of people love and watch. He's executive producer of The Gifted, which I love, by the way. He was the producer on Deadpool. He's the producer on The Martian. He's a producer on Cinderella, which I think is great. He was a producer on X-Men Days of Future Past, which he also wrote. He was a producer on First Class. I mean, if you're asking, hey, why did the studio who give this guy the reins to write when he wrote some bad stuff? The answer is because he also wrote some really great stuff. That's why you let him write. Because he wrote the screenplay for X-Men Days of Future Past, and that, other than Logan, to me, is the greatest X-Men movie of all time. Why wouldn't you let the guy who just wrote Days of Future Past take a shot at writing that? He did Apocalypse, and that one was awful. Okay. He's done some awful stuff, but he's also done some great stuff. And there's very few people who know the X-Men universe quite as well as he does, so why not let him write it? I was all for. Look, as much as I was against letting Simon Kinberg direct X-Men Dark Phoenix, because I don't believe you should ever have a first-time director make their first movie that they direct a big blockbuster tentpole franchise film. I think that's a mistake. But I had no problem with him being allowed to write it. Yeah, he did Apocalypse, but he also did Days of Future Past. So I was cool with it. I had no problem with him being the writer on it. I just had an issue with him being a director on it. Lone Wolf X6 writes, Aubrey Plaza as Lenny in, speaking of Legion, Aubrey Plaza as Lenny on Legion, she was wonderful in that. I love Aubrey Plaza. I will always just love her simply because of Parks and Rec. She's so good in Parks and Rec. I love her and Andy's relationship, which is Chris Pratt. I just love them. But yeah, she was great in Legion. I'm not the biggest Legion fan in the world. I didn't like Legion Season 2. I loved Legion Season 1. But regardless, she's wonderful in it, absolutely. Mason Kackman writes, saw Rocket Man last night, good movie. Such a good movie, and everything with his dad almost had me in tears. Have a great day. That was one of the really nice pieces of that movie, was the relationship, both complex and terrible, yet redeem. There's a lot of different things they do with his dad in that depending on how you look at it, but it was very, very moving stuff. And look, I don't think Rocket Man was anywhere near as good as, say, Bohemian Rhapsody, but I still thought it was quite good. Taron Egerton was really good in it, and they did a good job. And the stuff with his dad was certainly ranks right up there as well. Lone Wolf X6 writes, better Wells, Earth 2 Wells or Sherlock Wells? I did not like the Sherlock Wells at first. He grew on me, though. He did grow on me. I'll still give the edge to Earth 2 Wells, though. Chris Warden writes, just started The Deuce with James Franco, and that's another one people keep telling me I gotta watch. I heard this is supposed to be really good. The Deuce with James Franco, and I'm loving it. It's got great acting and writing. Chalk up another top-notch production from HBO. I hear nothing but good things about it, Chris. Yet another show, because I keep talking about it. I got all these shows I got to add to my to-watch list. And that is absolutely one of them. People keep telling me about it, so I got to get on that and check it out sooner rather than later. All right, Leo Milmet writes, I can't believe the petition to include the Thanos copter in Endgame has 11,000 signatures. WTF, like who cares? It's a gadget, it's ridiculous. Then again, Leo follows up with, I don't understand why a petition about anything like that would be created. What's the point? Well, I mean, here's the thing, Leo. Movie fan petitions are ridiculous, partially because they're just ridiculous in and of themselves, but also because a lot of times they're just made up in fun. For example, do you know how many signatures there are on the petition to have Danny DeVito as Wolverine? I can't remember. Hold on a second. Danny DeVito Wolverine petition. It was like some weird number. Right now, Danny DeVito as Wolverine currently has almost 40,000 signatures. 39,867 as of this moment. Signatures on it. Does anybody really want Danny DeVito as Wolverine? Does anybody really want Danny DeVito as Wolverine? I would suggest to you probably not. Probably not. It's just a ridiculous thing. And nobody really I don't believe for a second anybody really wanted the Thanos copter in there. But I'm not surprised at all that a lark like that has 11,000 signatures. If Danny DeVito as Wolverine can get 40,000 signatures, why can't the Thanos copter get 11,000 signatures? Koa1708 writes, is it on purpose when different studios release movies that are alike at the same time? Deep Impact and Armageddon, White House Down, and Olympus Has Fallen, Hercules, and so on and so forth. It's not by accident. It's on purpose. A lot of times an idea, like the atmosphere and the environment might be ripe for a disaster movie, like a volcano movie. Okay, so now you got a couple of studios now in a race to get theirs out first. A concept of what the White House being attacked. Okay, now it's a race to get theirs out first. It happens, and they're on purpose. A Jungle Book movie. You had 2 Jungle Book movies in production at the same time. You had the Andy Serkis version and you had the Jon Favreau version. One was much better than the other. I'm a huge Andy Serkis fan. I love Andy Serkis, but I didn't think his Jungle Book movie was all that great, unfortunately. I look forward to seeing what he does next. I just got to confess I wasn't that big on his version, but that became a race. When it became clear that the Disney one was getting in theaters, well ahead, then the Jungle Book one got pushed off quite a bit, but it's on purpose. It's on purpose. Let me say this. I think most of the time it's on purpose. I'm sure there's a few coincidence examples as well. Alex Spur writes, do you think the John Wick trilogy has surpassed the Matrix trilogy at this point? In what way? Financially, no. Long-term impact? No. Like, the Matrix came out 20 years ago, and people still talk about the Matrix. As much as I love the John Wick films, I don't know if we're going to be talking about them 20 years from now. I don't know that we will. I'm not going to say definitively we won't, but I simply, I've got a lot of confidence that we're still going to be talking about The Matrix. Even though the sequels weren't all that well received, we're still going to be talking about The Matrix another 10 years from now. I'm not so sure we will be about the John Wick films. I'm not so sure. It's possible, but so I'm going to say no. At this point, I'm going to say no. Dropkick Aggie writes, apples. We're talking about apples, channeling a little bit of, who's the Philadelphia 76er star who said, I got his name on the tip of my tongue. Is it Practice? We're talking about Practice? Allen Iverson. That's who it was. Practice? We're talking about apples? We're talking about apples? That's a good reference, Dropkick. I like that. Ben Rayner writes, I know you don't like it, but Disney has potential to have 3 animated nominations in animated movies for the next Oscars. Toy Story 4, Frozen 2, and The Lion King 2019. Well, I mean, it all depends, Ben. I don't believe for a second, not for a second, that Lion King should be considered anything other than an animated movie. It is an animated movie. However, I'm not 100% sure that the Academy is going to look at it that way. There are still a lot of people who, when referring to the Lion King movie, they say the Lion King live action movie. A lot of people still refer to it as the live action Lion King. There's nothing live action about this movie. So I'm not sure that the Oscars are going to look at it that way. It certainly sounds like Toy Story, which, by the way, let me take a look here. Is it still holding 100%? Yep. It's Saturday, and it's still holding a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's a safe bet it's going to get a Best Animated nomination. Toy Story 2 is Frozen. The first Frozen was actually very good. I know it's cool to say it sucks and all that kind of, but it doesn't. It's actually quite a good animated film. People got tired of Let It Go. I get that, but it's still a very good animated film. I don't have any reason to believe that Frozen 2 won't be nominated for Best Animated. The question is going to be, how does the Academy look at it for Lion King? How are they going to look at it? Are they even going to qualify it as an animated film? I'm not 100% sure that they will. I'm not 100% sure that they will. And yes, to follow up, I don't even believe the Best Animated category should even exist. I don't believe the Best Animated category should exist. I think it's a participation award. It shouldn't exist. Shouldn't be there. The only reason they created it was to give themselves an excuse not to nominate animated films for Best Picture. That's the only reason they created that category. They should get rid of it. Every other category has hundreds of potential nominees. Best Picture, you got 500, 600, 700 potential nominees. Best Lead Actor, 500, 600, 700 potential Best Actors. Best Documentary, hundreds of documentaries to choose from. Best Animated, how many full-length feature animated features, Oscar-eligible ones, actually get made per year? Not a lot. Not compared to everything else. It just shouldn't be a category. I think they should get rid of it and give the animated films the true respect that they're due by making them every bit as in contention consideration for the big prizes as the other films. It doesn't matter what medium they use. That's just my thought. All right, Thundercloud sends in a super chat. Thank you, Thundercloud. I appreciate that, man. Christopher Rampersad writes, oh my God, who played Chris Hemsworth? I'm guessing Chris Hemsworth's ex-wife in Men in Black. You're through. Oh my God, who plays Chris Hemsworth's ex-wife in Men in Black? You're through. I'm not quite sure what we're talking about, Christopher. If you're asking me who plays his ex-girlfriend, and I'm not going to go into details because a lot of people haven't seen the movie. If you're asking who plays his ex-girlfriend in the movie, just hop on IMDb, dude. You can go look her up. I don't know off the top of my head, but just hop on IMDb, look up Men in Black International, IMDb, look it up. Unless you mean something different by saying you're through. I'm not piecing the pieces together here, because sorry about that, man. Sorry about that. All right. Lone Wolf X6 writes, it's awesome-tacular. I don't know what we're talking about, but I'm sure it is. My Name is Blue writes, what do you think is the best direct-to-video film? Oh, I don't know. There are millions out there. I can't remember off the top of my head which ones are and which ones aren't, so I'm not really sure. Andres Martinez writes, chocolates and tater tots. I don't think it's chocolates plural. I think it's just chocolate. Chocolate and tater tots. That was the perfect line to end Venom. It's such a great line in that movie. What do you feel like having for dinner? Chocolate and tater tots. I don't know why. I die laughing when I hear it. As a matter of fact, Anne to this day, every once in a while, we'll just be in the grocery store. She goes, let's get chocolate and tater tots. And we'll just start laughing. It's hilarious. I love that line. Leo Milmet writes, one of two, Rocket Man, amazing. If come January there's 5 better performances than Egerton, this will be then this year, then we're in for a treat. I would say this, Leo. If the Oscars were held tomorrow, I would say Taron Egerton should get a Best Actor nomination. He's great in it. Was he so great that I feel confident right now that he'll probably get nominated by the end of the year? I don't know that I do. It's possible, but if the end of the year comes and Taron doesn't get a Best Actor nomination, I won't complain. He's great. He's great in it. Best Actor nomination consideration? I don't know. Again, if they were held tomorrow, yes. I think I'll be a little bit surprised if he's still up there by the end of the year. I'll be a little bit surprised by that. This is kind of my thought. All right, Noel Nguyen writes, not great, not terrible, 3.6 Rotingen is a reference to Chernobyl. Oh, you're talking about the radioactivity meter. Got it. Okay. For Chernobyl, for example, I rate Dark Phoenix a 3.6. Got it. Okay. I totally forgot the name of that, so it went right over my head. Thank you for following up, Noel. That was very considerate of you. Andres Martinez writes, over under 35%, Tom Cruise makes a movie called Cruise Control. I could probably take the under on that, but wouldn't that be great? Leo Milmet, 2 of 2 from earlier. I much prefer actors making real people their own on film as opposed to mimicking. I prefer them making it their own. Your thoughts? Not necessarily, no. Like, as if you are doing a true story based on a true person, you should give as true of a representation of that person as possible. And if you can convince me you have become that person, to me that transcends just mimicking or doing an impersonation. You can do impersonations, but even the best impersonations won't convince you this is that person. There are some examples, Jamie Foxx playing Ray Charles, Joaquin Phoenix playing Johnny Cash, where you just become convinced that this is that person. And I think it transcends that. And I believe, so I'm not sure I agree with you on that, Leo. I mean, I think you'll probably find people that do agree with you on that. I'm not sure I do. You got to convince me you are that person. I'm not looking for your own interpretation of that person. I'm looking for that person. That goes beyond an impersonation, that goes beyond mimicry, and actually becomes to embody who and what that person was. And that's kind of the main thing I look for, personally, but that's just me. It's a good question, though. Django19 writes, rewatching the Toy Story trilogy, and I never noticed Joss Whedon had a part in the writing of the screenplay for the first one. Yeah, I remember that came up a number of years ago. It's like, wait a minute, Joss Whedon was one of the writers? Yep, Joss Whedon was one of the writers. It's a great little piece of trivia. to have in there. What Pixar film was Josh Whedon, one of the accredited writers on? That is a great piece of trivia to have at your disposal, Django. That's a great point. Film Fan Rant writes, saw your getting started video, wanted to say thank you, got started on Funko Pop toys. Nice. John, it's the beginning of a bad habit. It can be, but at least it's not as expensive as Sideshow collectibles or Hot Toys, which are magnificent. For those of you who don't know what Film Fan Rant is talking about, I put together, for people who are interested, because I believe more fans should get involved in blogging, podcasting, and YouTubing. I think it just enriches the overall fan community when more people get involved. And anyway, so I put together a 2-hour video on how to get started in YouTubing, podcasting, and blogging. It's like 5 years old now, so I need to update it at some point, but all the points are still relevant. And if you're interested in watching it, just go on YouTube, search for John Campea Getting Started, and it should be like the first video that comes up. And I'm glad you enjoyed it, Film Fan Rant. I'm glad you checked it out. All right. Let's see here. A father of a legend writes, hey, John, wishing for Comic-Con to come to Vegas. I absolutely believe Comic-Con should go to Vegas for many reasons. Look, I love San Diego. I love having it in San Diego. San Diego simply does not have the infrastructure to properly host the event. When people have to enter lotteries to get a hotel room, when it takes you an hour to get from a half mile out from the convention center to the convention center in traffic, when every restaurant everywhere is filled to capacity and you got to wait 45 minutes just to get something to eat, it's simply, I love San Diego so much. I love that city. But San Diego simply does not have the adequate infrastructure to properly host that event. Because people are paying $500 a night for some hotels that should cost $65 a night, but it's supply and demand. You go to Vegas, Vegas has bigger convention center, like double the size convention center, 10 times the amount of hotel availability. I've seen events held in Vegas that are far bigger than Comic-Con, and Vegas doesn't even blink. Still plenty of hotel rooms for everybody. Tons of convention space. Thousands of places to eat. It's just got a better infrastructure. San Diego has some advantages that I will not deny. I love San Diego. I love going to San Diego. The place is awesome. But San Diego really should move to Vegas. It really should. Lord Al Ucard writes, thoughts on Deadwood TV show and new movie. Haven't watched the new movie. Love the TV show. Love the TV show. It was a shame it got cut short, but I haven't seen the movie yet because I want to do I think I want to watch the final season of Deadwood and then watch the movie again because it's been a couple of years since I've seen it, but I love the show, but I haven't seen the movie yet. Andres Martinez writes, John Cena replacing The Rock in Fast 9. Yep, we talked about it on the John Campea Show. He's not replacing him in the fact that he's not playing Hobbs. Hobbs is still in the universe. The Rock is still in the universe. But yeah, he's going to play the next guy to job to Dominic Toretto. That's what he's going to be there for. Andresen follows up. IMDb says Alicia Vikander is Hawk Girl in Wonder Woman 1984. I wouldn't believe anything. Again, IMDb is not something you should take as gospel for a movie that hasn't come out yet. For movies that have come out, great. For not, I wouldn't pay any attention to it because a lot of different people can add things to that. Where are we at here? Sorry, we had a little bit of a jump. Okay, we had a bigger jump than I thought. All right, there's no way I'm going to be able to finish this whole thing today. Anyway, Django, by the way, guys, I've only got about 5 or 10 minutes left because Ann and I are supposed to be going out to... many of you guys know Ann's dad passed away a couple years ago. And I believe it's Father's Day weekend, is it not? Is it Father's Day weekend? I think it's Father's Day weekend. The Father's Day is yes, this weekend. And so we are going out to get together with the rest of her family, and we're going to go visit his memorial, and we're going to go out as a family and have lunch, and just to celebrate Ann's dad. And we were supposed to leave 10 minutes ago. So I'm going to keep going for a couple more minutes here, guys. And then I'm going to have to, unfortunately, I like to try to get through all the questions when we do an open mic, but today I am up against the clock a little bit. So I'm going to finish these off, and then don't worry, I will do a companion video for everybody who has questions that I don't get around to. Don't worry, I will do a companion video, and we will get all of these answered. Might not be till Sunday or Monday, but I will get all of these answers. I absolutely promise. All right, last couple of questions I'm going to take today. This one comes to us from Django19, who writes, haven't seen Punisher Season 2 yet either. Me either. Or Daredevil Season 3. Oh, dude, get on Daredevil Season 3. Hard to catch up on all these series with 2 jobs, LOL. Is Daredevil Season 3 as great as the first 2 seasons? I believe so, yes. Is it better than the other ones? I don't know how I would rank them off the top of my head, but let's just put it this way. Daredevil, in my opinion, Django, Daredevil Season 3 is worthy of the Daredevil series. Daredevil Season 3 is absolutely, in my opinion, worthy of the Daredevil franchise name. Absolutely it is. So get on that, dude, and I will try to get on Punisher Season 2. Brandon Plummer writes, sorry for the confusion. I was actually wondering if there was another franchise you would like to see get an extended universe like the MCU or the DCU. Oh, I see what you're saying. Not really off the top of my head. I'm getting kind of tired of the whole shared universe thing. I'm getting a little bit bored and fatigued and tired of everything's got to be shared universe. Because, now you got the Kongverse, Universal tried to do the Kong and Godzilla verse, Universal tried to do their Monsterverse. Everything's got to be shared cinematic. I'm a little bit over it. I'm over it. I'm kind of just looking for, just good standalone movies now. That's kind of what I'm looking for. So not that I'm opposed. Let's be clear on this, Brandon. It's not that I'm opposed to new ones coming out that have big shared universes, but quite frankly and honestly, I'm not actively looking for them because I'm getting a little bit bored of it. Suthius writes, hey, Mr. C, the only movie I can see that could easily surpass Avatar would be the sequel to The Anniversary. Any news or updates? So for those of you who don't know, The Anniversary is the movie I made a number of years ago. I as somebody who has been a film pundit, even at that time for a number of years, I'm just the type of guy, I like to do things that everybody says they want to do but don't do. I like doing those things. So everybody says they want to make a movie someday, so I finally just said, F it, I'm just going to make a movie. I'm going to write a script, I'm going to cast it, I'm going to try to raise some money, and I'm going to make a movie. That's what I did. By Hollywood standards, is it good? No. I'm self-aware enough to know that. But am I proud of the movie I made? Hell yes. I am proud of the movie I made, and I'm proud of everybody who came along and helped me with it. And it's one of the greatest experiences of my life making my movie, and I'm very proud of it. And it even broke even, which is great. I would love to do another one, but there are 2 things I know for sure. One, I think I would get somebody else to direct it if I did another one, and I would probably just write and produce it, but I don't know. I don't know that I'll ever have the time to do another one, but I would love to. But thank you for the kind words, man. I appreciate that. Last question I have time to take today, unfortunately, comes to us from Connor Dixon, who writes, how does it work when a studio makes a TV show for another studio, such as Warner Brothers with Fox, Netflix for Lucifer? Love the show, by the way. Thank you for the recommendation. Well, a lot of times a company is multiple branches. Sometimes a company has a production side. The bigger companies like Disney, like Warner Brothers, like Paramount, they have their own production company, but they're also distributors. So they have 2 different branches. But sometimes the production company, they're not always in perfect synergy. Sometimes Warner Brothers Productions can make something that maybe another network wants to carry, and they can do that. So how does it work? It's just as simple as you think it is. A production company makes something, but for whatever reason, they don't have the proper branches of distribution to do something the way they want to do this production. They think it would work great on another network, whatever, and they do that. Because in as much as there is synergy and they're under the same roof, they're still different operations. The production and the distribution are different operations, and sometimes they don't work together on a particular project. So it's really just as simple as that. Jake Ayer writes, the art of good business is being a good middleman, putting people together. That sounds like it was from Barry, but I'm not quite sure what that's from exactly. And then Raymond 2000 sends in a super chat. Thank you so much for that, Raymond. And that is all the time I have for today, guys. Unfortunately, because it is the Father's Day weekend, we need to go and do some family stuff here. But don't worry, everybody from Jonathan Teft all the way down who sent in super chat questions today, don't worry, those are going to get answered in a video. I will do a companion video either tomorrow or Monday that will have all the questions in it that you guys answered. I absolutely guarantee it. So thank you for that, guys. And by the way, guys, overall, just thank you for being here and being part of the show. They're great questions to have and to give us fun things to talk about, but also because you supported the channel along the way as you're doing that. And for that, I am very, very grateful. Guys, I hope you have a fabulous rest of your weekend. Open mic will return again tomorrow, so we'll run this back and do it all again tomorrow. Make sure you come back and join us for that if you've got some time. And don't forget, on Monday, the John Campea Show returns on Monday. We hope to see you there as well. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea, and until our next video, bye-bye.